Hello everyone! In this video, I will show you how to use Google Spreadsheets to build a time-punching web application. Now, take a look at these time-punching buttons. By clicking on them, I can punch in time. For instance, if I click this one, it registers the current time. Later on, I can punch time out by clicking the timeout button. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Now, let me explain what else you'll find in this application. On the right, you can see recent time punches. This section displays all your punches, and here you can also view them in a calendar view. If I navigate to February, you can observe the punch duration. Additionally, you can view your punches by days and months. There's a lot to explore in this project. Firstly, you'll learn how to use Google Spreadsheets and scripting to build a web application based on or on top of Google Spreadsheets. You'll discover how to fetch and send data to the spreadsheet. For example, when I punch time in or out, this data goes to the spreadsheet, and it returns all the punches back to your browser or client side. You'll also learn how to transform data, basically mimicking group by clause, using JavaScript's reduce method. For instance, data from Google Spreadsheets comes in a two-dimensional array, but here we convert it to JSON format. Take a look at how it displays all the punches aggregated by dates and then aggregated by months. Furthermore, you'll understand how to construct your own calendar using HTML and CSS. We've used simple HTML and CSS tricks to build this calendar, and you'll discover how to inject your data into the calendar for a nice viewing experience. There's a wealth of knowledge to gain from this project. You can find the demo link in the description, but please watch it till the end. I'll also provide a code walkthrough, helping you navigate through files and understand their functionalities. This entire project is built using the Buffy framework, which is built on top of Vue.js utilizing Bulma CSS framework. I'll post references to all the frameworks used in this project so you can check them out for further learning. Now, let's punch out by clicking this timeout button. When I punch out, you'll see it logs a duration of 3 minutes. Here, you can also view your recent punch durations, and you can continue to punch in and out. For example, if I punch in and then punch out, it's logged here like this. Let me demonstrate one more time, but this time with the spreadsheet open. As you can see, we're connected to the spreadsheet used for this application. Let's refresh this and punch in. It's refreshed with new data, and now let's punch in and out. On the right, you can see it's logged for this date. Punching out, you can see it's logged out and also inserted formulas to calculate duration and date. This spreadsheet itself can be used to punch in and out if you prefer. Clicking Time In logs in the current time in column A and clicking Time Out registers the current time in column B. The attached script running when you click Time In and Time Out here is the same as in the web app. Both perform the same functions, showcasing that by following the scripts in this project, you can learn incrementally, starting with the spreadsheet and then advancing to building the web application. Let me show you how the data is transformed at various stages. When you open this application, it receives punching data in a two-dimensional array format. This raw data, displayed here, is formatted for better viewing. What the application actually gets is the raw, unformatted data from the spreadsheet. Next, we transform and convert it into JSON format. The data, initially in a two-dimensional array, is now in a JSON array of JavaScript objects. Additional fields are added for manipulations, like converting duration into milliseconds, getting duration in hours and minutes format, and adding a formatted date based on your local settings. We then group the data by date, computing the sum of all punches for that specific date. The same process is repeated for months. This showcases how the data is transformed at different stages and these transformed data are consumed in various table views used in the application. For a code walkthrough, let me open the script editor. Here on the right, you can see the script, and on the left, you can see our application. When you open the script editor, you'll find files like code.js and index.html. This do-gets function is called when you open the application, and I've included comments for clarity on what each function does. So when you open the application, this method is called using the do-gets method. What this block of code does is it constructs and evaluates the index.html file and sends that constructed index.html file to the browser, which is able to display it. On top, you can see it's referencing Beaufy CSS framework. Also, it is using material design icons for icons. You can see these tags. Basically, with the help of these tags, called scriptlet tags, we can include code from other files. Here, we are including code and styles from the styles folder, style.html, and we are including header and body from body.html and header.html. Index.html is composed of this header, body, and code from the style file. Here, it includes a JavaScript file from the jsview.html file. When you call the evaluate function on the template, it evaluates these scriptlet tags. The returned HTML page will finally contain codes from all these files like body.html, JavaScript, and style. Then, this will be returned to the browser. Now, let's do a walkthrough of this code.js file. Here, you can see I have defined two functions, timeIn and timeout. These two functions are hooked to the timeIn and timeout buttons. When you click timeIn, this will get called from the browser. It will enter the current time in column A of the spreadsheet. When you click timeout, it will enter the current time in column B. Then, it will return all the punches, time punches that you have done. This is the code for entering the current time. First, it will get to this active spreadsheet. Then, it will compute the last row in the column you mentioned. If it is column A, it will compute the last row in column A. After inserting the value, it will also add two other formulas for entering the date and duration. This is needed only in this spreadsheet. Even if I remove this code, our web application will continue to work fine. This is needed in case you want to use this punching time in and timeout within the spreadsheet itself. The getTimePunches function is used to retrieve all the time punches that exist in this spreadsheet. It will return time punches in a two-dimensional array format and return it after stringifying it. So that's it for this code.js file. Now let me explain the main files, that is, body.html and header.html. Header.html file is responsible for laying out the navigation bar along with the logo. The entire body of the application is constructed using the templates defined in the body.html file. And this is the main JavaScript code that uses Vue.js framework. To better explain this, I will open this code in my VS Code editor. It will become very easy to explain the code in split mode. Here, you can see I have got the same files. Under Components folder, we have body and header. Under Script, we have jsview.html. Under Styles, style.html, and this is code.js. I have opened both the files in split mode. This contains the JavaScript code, and this is the template. I have used Bulma CSS to lay out those tiles that contain punch buttons, calendar, and different tables. Let me show you what I have used. If I go here and check Bulma Docs for the tile section, you can see it has got all the code for laying out these tiles. I simply copied this code and modified it so that it becomes easier for me to lay out different content of my application. This top left tile is for laying out punch buttons and the calendar. This code is responsible for laying out punch buttons. This punch button is hooked to this punch time in, and this punch timeout button is hooked to this punch timeout function. Let me show you where this function is. punch time in and punch time out. Here, you can see it is using google.script.run. Basically, this is the client-side API provided by Google Apps Script to call the AppScript method defined in the code.gs file. Here, you can see it is calling the timeIn function that was defined in the code.gs file, a function that I previously talked about. This timeIn and timeout button is being called from here, this timeIn button that is inside this punch timeIn block. Once that is completed, we get all the time punches back in response. Then we do other transformations. I will talk about this later. Similarly, punch timeout is hooked to the timeout button. It's pretty straightforward. You can see the logic for disabling the punch buttons based on whether current time in exists or not. This block is simply for displaying the current time in and time out. This block is responsible for laying out the calendar. You can see here, we have got arrows for changing year and month. In the center, it is displaying the current month. And this day's header is for displaying Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, like that. This is the days grid. This is responsible for laying out all days in a typical monthly calendar fashion. Let me quickly show you the CSS pointing to Dates Grid class. Here, you can see it's mentioning repeat 71FR, which tells it to render 7 elements per row. You can read it all to understand the whole logic and CSS that goes into building this calendar. Now, to the right, you can see recent punches. It references data as table.recentpunches.data. Here, you can see table recent punches, then data. This data is populated when we get recent punches from the server. After doing transformations, we hook the transform data to this table element and hook these columns to this column's attribute. Similarly, for view by days, we are hooking this table by date.data. Again, after doing proper transformation, by date.data will be populated. Then, this by date.data will be hooked to this table. Similarly, for the month view, we are hooking by month data to the table. So now, let me show you the data transformation at various stages. This is the mainview.js file. And here you can see it has all the objects, or you can say states, that are being used by the application. For example, this is the local setting of your script. You can edit this depending on your location. These are the days and the current date. These are being used for the construction of the calendar, and this current time in and time out to hold the current time punched in and punched out. These objects to hold transformed data at different stages are temporary and can be removed. I have included it here just for illustrating data transformation at different stages, like time punches received from the server into different formats, JSON format, then JSON format after modification, and then after grouping by months and dates. First of all, when you open this application, the code inside the mounted hook will run. The two codes that I have defined here are generate calendar and get time punches. So, the first function that will run is generate calendar. This is the logic for generating the calendar. First of all, it will compute the last day of the month in the current month, and then based on that, it will populate the dates array. This dates array will contain information like ID, day, any custom info, and the day of the week. Here, you can see we are also injecting our information received from the spreadsheet, like time duration for any particular day. You can read it later to understand it more comprehensively. Then, these are increment and decrement methods. These are the methods that have been defined to increment-decrement the month and year in the calendar. Then, after the calendar is generated, we call getTimePunches from the server. You can see getTimePunches that was defined in the code.js file is being called here using Google Script Run. And when we receive the response, inside the success handler, I am calling the doTransformation function. Here, you can see, after parsing the data, I am calling doTransformation. So, this is a very important step that is transforming the received time punches in different formats so that it can be consumed directly by different tables in our application. And I am transforming this time punches received from server into formats just to show in the app what the data looks like at various stages of transformation. So, later, you can comment it out. Now, in the doTransformation block, what we do is we add extra fields like duration, formatted date, etc. And we format the duration in hours and minutes format. So, that's it. That is why this transformation process steps are required. And then, after doing the proper transformation, what we do is we group by the data using array.reduce method. This group by method, for example, is grouping all the data based on dates. This is the method that you can refer to understand what it does. After grouping by date, it is grouping by months. And then finally, it is returning the grouped by date and grouped by month. You can see I am using the helper function moles to hours and minute. I am converting the duration to milliseconds, and then with the help of this moles to hours and minutes function, I am getting duration in hours and minutes format. So that is it for the code walkthrough. Now, how do you make this yours? To make this yours, what you need to do is, first of all, make a duplicate copy of this file by going to the File menu and then make a copy. You can open this script editor by going to Extensions and then click on Apps Script. This will open the script editor in another tab. Then, you need to click on this Deploy button and click on New Deployment. Here, you can provide a description like version 1. In the Execute As section, select Me. In Who Has Access to section, choose Only Myself if you want to restrict it to yourself only. Then, click on this Deploy button. This will take time, and then it will ask for authorization to authorize the code used in this project. Go ahead and grant all the necessary permissions required to run this application. After the deployment completes, you will be provided with a new URL. You can copy it and open it in another tab. And there, you see your application is ready. Let me show you if it works. I am punching in here. You can see it has punched the time. Let me punch out. And here you can see it has punched out. So, this was very quick to set up. Feel free to copy this spreadsheet, go through the code, and happy learning and happy coding. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.